Imagine a man who invented the future, who dreamed of wireless energy, of machines that could think, of a world powered by the very air we breathe. Now imagine that this man died penniless, alone and forgotten in a hotel room in New York City, his name erased from history by the very forces that had once made him a legend. He was the man who electrified the world, who harnessed the power of Niagara Falls, who built the first remote-controlled boat, who invented the radio, the fluorescent light, the induction motor, the Tesla coil, the neon lamp, the remote control, and the spark plug. He was a visionary who saw the world 100 years ahead of his time. He was the man who could have given the world free energy. He was the man who was systematically destroyed by the most powerful man in American history. And yet, his name remains etched in our consciousness, a symbol of genius, persecution, and the terrible price of ambition. This is the story of Nikola Tesla, the man who created the modern world and was left behind it. But here is what most people do not realize about Nikola Tesla. He was not just a scientist. He was a man tormented by visions, by a mind that would not stop, by a loneliness that consumed him, and by a world that could not understand him. To understand Nikola Tesla, you have to go back to the beginning, to a small village in the mountains of what is now Croatia. He was born on July 10, 1856, during a lightning storm. The midwife, in a moment of superstition, declared him a child of darkness, a bad omen. His mother, Diuka, a woman of sharp intelligence who invented household appliances even though she had never received a formal education, replied, "No, he will be a child of light." The prophecy was almost too perfect. Tesla's entire life would be a battle between darkness and light, between the forces of nature and the power of the human mind. His father, Milutin, was an Orthodox priest, a learned man who expected his son to follow in his footsteps. But Tesla was not interested in the church. He was fascinated by the natural world, by water, by the wind, and by the mysterious electricity that crackled in the sky during storms. He could visualize things in his mind with such clarity that he could build and test his inventions in his imagination before ever constructing a physical prototype. This was a gift that would define his career. Tesla was a frail child, often ill, haunted by what he called lucid dreams and flashes of light. He saw things that others could not see. He could hear the ticking of a clock from 3 rooms away. He could feel the vibration of a distant train. He lived in a world of heightened sensations, a world that was both a blessing and a curse. His mind was a laboratory, a place where he could design machines and test their function without ever lifting a finger. It was a gift that would allow him to develop some of the most important inventions of the modern era, but it was also a curse. He was unable to sleep for more than a few hours a night. He was plagued by a recurring dream in which a beautiful woman, a fairy queen, would appear to him and give him instructions about his work. He was a man in the grip of something far larger than himself, a genius whose visions were so vivid that they seemed like memories. He was educated at the Polytechnic School in Graz, Austria, and later at the University of Prague, but he never completed his degree. He was consumed by his ideas. He began working for the Continental Edison Company in Paris, where he was introduced to the wonder of direct current electricity, the system being championed by Thomas Edison. It was in Paris that Tesla first conceived of the rotating magnetic field, the foundation of his alternating current, AC, motor. He realized that the AC system was far more efficient than Edison's DC, which required power plants every mile. AC could be transmitted over vast distances with minimal loss. It was the key to electrifying the world. Tesla knew he had made a breakthrough that could change the future of civilization. In 1884, Tesla immigrated to the United States armed with nothing but a letter of recommendation from a Parisian associate and a pocketful of his own ambition. He arrived in New York with a dream, a few cents in his pocket, and a letter of introduction to Thomas Edison. Edison hired him on the spot, impressed by his intelligence and his references. He was brought in to improve Edison's existing DC generators. Tesla worked tirelessly, spending months improving Edison's designs. When he finished, he approached Edison about the pay he had been promised. Edison dismissed him with a laugh, famously saying, "Tesla, you don't understand our American humor." Tesla had been cheated. He walked out of Edison's office and never looked back. The rivalry between Tesla and Edison was born, a feud that would define the electrical industry and the lives of both men. It was a clash of ideals, a battle between DC and AC, between the established order and the disruptive visionary. Tesla was forced into poverty, digging ditches for $1 a day to survive. But he never gave up. In 1887, he found backers for his AC motor, and within a year he had filed a series of patents that would become the foundation of the modern electrical grid. The Westinghouse Electric Company bought his patents and entered into a power war with Edison. Edison, desperate to discredit AC, conducted a campaign of fear, publicly electrocuting animals to show that AC was dangerous. He even helped engineer the electric chair, a device designed to terrify the public into rejecting Tesla's system. But Tesla was undeterred. He demonstrated the safety of his system by passing high-frequency current through his own body, creating a spectacular display of light and energy that left audiences gasping. In 1893, he was awarded the contract to illuminate the world's Columbian Exposition in Chicago. The City of Light was a triumph, and Tesla's AC system was adopted as the standard for the world. He had beaten Edison, and the world would never be the same. The success was intoxicating, and Tesla's ambitions grew exponentially. He was not satisfied with simply electrifying the world. He dreamed of a grander vision. He began working on a system to transmit power without wires, a technology that would make the need for power lines obsolete. He built a laboratory in Colorado Springs where he experimented with high-frequency currents and created artificial lightning, sending bolts of electricity hundreds of feet into the air. He claimed he had received signals from Mars, a claim that was widely ridiculed. He was a man out of touch with reality, a genius who had become a prophet, convinced that he had unlocked the secrets of the universe. His grandest scheme was the Wardenclyffe Tower, a massive structure built on Long Island designed to transmit wireless energy across the Atlantic. The project was backed by J.P. Morgan, who funded it in the hope that it would be used to transmit messages and charge for their transmission. When Tesla revealed that his plan was actually to provide free energy to the entire world, Morgan withdrew his funding. The tower was abandoned, and Tesla was bankrupt. The fall from grace was swift and brutal. Tesla was no longer a celebrated inventor. He was a pariah, a dreamer whose great schemes had failed. He spent the next decades of his life drifting from hotel to hotel, writing letters to friends and supporters, working on his theories about the universe. He became increasingly paranoid and reclusive, obsessed with hygiene and terrified of germs. He refused to touch human hair or handle round objects. He would not shake hands with anyone. He was a man who had retreated into a world of his own making, a world where the only things that mattered were his ideas. He wrote about death rays, about particle beam weapons, about a technology that could destroy an entire army from afar. He spoke about his ability to communicate with other planets and developed an anti-gravity craft. He was dismissed as a madman, a harmless eccentric, a forgotten relic of a bygone era. He was, in many ways, a ghost in the city he had helped to build. Tesla's personal life was a mystery, one that remains largely unsolved. He never married, claiming that celibacy was the only way to maintain his focus on his work. He was terrified of intimacy, of the distraction that romantic love might cause.
He had a brief, unrequited love for a woman named Anne Morgan, the daughter of his former patron. He wrote her passionate letters, but he was too shy to ever pursue her. He was a man who was surrounded by an ocean of admirers and yet felt completely isolated. He was a genius who had changed the world, but he could not change himself. He was consumed by a loneliness that was as vast as his imagination. He was known to be deeply depressed, and he often spoke of a death wish. He was a man who had seen the future and realized that he would not be around to see it come to pass. He was a man who had given everything to his work and received nothing but the bitter taste of solitude. The tragedy of Nikola Tesla is that he was not a businessman, a politician, or a strategist. He was a pure scientist, a visionary who believed that his ideas would be recognized by the merit of their brilliance. He failed to understand that the world does not reward genius, it rewards those who can sell it. He was exploited by his partners, his patents were stolen, his money was wasted. He was a man who was taken advantage of at every turn. He became a symbol of the tragic fate of the lone genius, a man whose brilliance was overshadowed by his eccentricity. He was a man who believed in the power of ideas to change the world, and in that belief, he was both a visionary and a fool.
Tesla died in his room in the New Yorker Hotel in 1943. He was 86 years old. He was found by a maid who had come to clean his room. He had been dead for 2 days. He had not been heard from in weeks. The world had forgotten him. The man who had electrified the world, who had built the foundation for the modern world, had died alone and penniless, his name erased from the history books he had written. He had been forgotten by the very city he had helped to build. His funeral was attended by only a few hundred people. The mayor of New York City gave a eulogy, but most of the city did not even notice he was gone. He was buried in a simple grave in a cemetery on the outskirts of the city. The legacy of Nikola Tesla is a complicated one. He is now celebrated as a visionary, a prophet of the modern age. His AC motor is the basis of our entire electrical grid. His work on wireless transmission has led to technologies like radio, Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth. He is credited with inventing the radio, a claim that was confirmed by the U.S. Supreme Court in 1943, posthumously overturning Guglielmo Marconi's patents. He is honored as the father of modern technology. He has become a symbol of the frustrated genius, a man whose contributions were forgotten by the world he had transformed. He is now a pop culture icon, a figure who has appeared in movies, video games, and countless conspiracy theories. He has become the patron saint of the underdog, the rebel, the dreamer. But there is a darker side to this legacy. Tesla's ideas, which he presented as a means of universal peace and progress, have been embraced by conspiracy theorists who believe he was silenced by a world that was not ready for him. He is often portrayed as a victim of the system, a man who was crushed by the forces of capitalism and corporate greed. He is seen as the ultimate example of a man who could not stand up to the power of money. But Tesla was not just a victim. He was a man who was ultimately betrayed by his own hubris, his belief that his genius would be enough to protect him. He was a man who failed to protect his intellectual property, a man who was a terrible businessman. He was a man who could not stop dreaming, and in that inability, he lost everything.
Why should someone born today still care about Nikola Tesla? Because his life is a powerful reminder of the price of genius. It is a story about the tension between the visionary and the world that is not ready for him. It is a story about the power of ideas to change the world and the terrible cost of being ahead of your time. It is a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked ambition and the importance of protecting your work. It is a reminder that the world does not always reward those who are right, and that the forces of greed and power can destroy even the greatest minds.
He was a man who believed in the power of human ingenuity, who believed that science could solve the problems of humanity. He was a man who dared to dream, who dared to imagine a world powered by free energy, a world without war. And while that world has not yet come to pass, his vision still inspires us to try. He was a man who believed in the future, and it is our task to make that future a reality. Tesla once said, "The present is theirs. The future, for which I really worked, is mine." He was right. He may have been forgotten in his own time, but the future he envisioned is our present. We live in a world powered by alternating current, a world of wireless communication and remote controls. We live in a world that was built on his dreams. He may have died alone and penniless, but he did not die without purpose. He died believing that the world would eventually understand what he had done. And now, more than a century later, his name is finally being recognized as one of the greatest minds in human history. He is no longer a forgotten genius. He is a legend, and his story is a testament to the power of the human imagination, to the ability of one man to change the world, even if the world does not notice until it is too late. He was a child of light, and the light he brought to the world will never be extinguished.